Good day everyone and welcome back. Today's episode is very special because I'm gonna try to hit 4 birds with 1 stone. Okay, siguro wag na natin gamitin yun kasi kawawa naman yung mga birds and wala naman silang kamalay-malay, so wag natin sila idamay. Today we're gonna hit 4 topics with this one vlog. First, this is a travel vlog of one of my favorite trips. Second, I'm gonna share tips on how to make every travel purposeful, especially if you're an artist. Third, I'm gonna introduce you to a brilliant genius who paved the way for us to enjoy music today. He is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And fourth, wala, tamang kwentuhan lang. So, kung gusto nyo makinig, edi tara! This time last year, it was my first time in Europe, and I specifically chose this destination as a way for me to go back to my roots and retrace the steps of some of my favorite composers, those who shaped me and my love for music, as a way to inspire me further sa musical journey ko. Minsan kasi sa craft mo, mababurn out ka rin. Minsan may isip mo, sa tagal mo nang ginagawa, ay napanghihinaan ka ng loob magpatuloy. But when you revisit the stories or the lives of people who inspired you or who shaped you to be who you are, nalalagyan ulit nila ng ilaw yung lampposts ng path mo as an artist, as a person. And from there, ganado ka ulit gawin yung mahal mo gawin. Ang inspiration kasi hindi naman laging nandyan. So, minsan kailangan mo rin siyang habulin, kailangan mo rin siyang hanapin, especially if nararamdaman mo na nawawala na siya. So, wag natin hayaan mangyari yun. Okay, so ito na. Our destination for today's travel vlog is Austria. So, my point of entry to Europe was Vienna, Austria. Vienna was the city of so many fine composers, especially Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Actually, you cannot think of Vienna and not think about him. And when you go there, you'll see that because his face is all over the place. I've been playing the piano since I was 5 years old. So, his music had been a part of me since then. Yeah, I always felt like Mozart is like a close friend of mine. Here in Vienna, I was super overjoyed kasi parang I'm revisiting him, and just to be in a city that's responsible for the existence of so many wonderful works, so many amazing compositions, where my music heroes actually lived and died. I was just super duper happy about it. Yeah. I shared this experience with my family, so it made it more fun. Dinamay ko sila sa pag-retrace ng steps ni Mozart. And I think they enjoyed it to the point na every poster that they see of a random European, tinatanong nila, is that Mozart? Yan, si Mozart ba yan? Parang ganun. So that's fun. So our first train stop was at SOUVENIRS. I think it's the main square of the city, and when you go down the station, the magnificent St. Stephen's Cathedral is already welcoming you. And to think this place had already housed so many wonderful concerts and important events for the past 700 years. I mean, imagine Mozart got married in that church. It's such a sight to behold kasi sobrang ganda ng architecture. Everything is so detailed. It reminded me of a quote. The poet Goethe said, architecture is frozen music, and music is liquid architecture. I think that quote best describes Vienna for me. It's a city where architecture and music are married. So from there, we walked to our apartment, and then we were just taking in all the wonderful sights and sounds of the city. And of course, we stopped by to grab a bite, a few beers. Yeah, when we got to our apartment, we had a good view of the street. We also went to the grocery para hindi kami masyadong gumastos. And we prepared our own European breakfast every day. So on our very first day, I immediately went to the Haus der Musik, which is a sound and music museum in Vienna, which is super cool. It was musical heaven for me. Like, doon, puro interactive presentations, everything about music. They also featured holograms of composers and featured their lives and their work. Puro musical games like composing and everything, and you can even be a composer for a virtual orchestra. So it was really fun. I really enjoyed my stay. So please, if you go to Vienna, you have to go there. After that, it's time to visit Mozart's apartment. So I went to two. But actually, he was born in Salzburg, a different city. And he was born January 27, 1756. And he was a child prodigy. 5 years old, he already composed his very first composition. He came from a musical family. His sister, si Nannerl, was also a stellar pianist. And his father, si Leopold, was a violinist. And he was like a strict manager to them. So bata pa lang sila, nagtutour na sila as musicians. So by touring and traveling, and also by being commissioned by the church or by royalty to compose music, his musical genius was more and more becoming evident. Because of his talent and his ambition, at 25, he wanted to go to Vienna. He wanted to expand his horizons as a musician, as a composer. And yun, actually, he has a quote about traveling. So, sabi niya, a fellow of mediocrity will remain a mediocre whether or not they travel. But for someone of superb talent, I think he was talking about himself. He will go to seed if he were to remain in just one place. So, yun, nakita mo dito yung ambition niya and how he seeks for inspiration to perfect his craft by traveling. And also because that time, Vienna was like a center for music and so many fine composers wanted to make it there. Kumbaga, sa modern times, siguro yun yung NYC nila na parang, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. If I can make it there, I can make it anywhere, that's what they say. Now my next stop is the opera. Of course, I had to watch a Mozart opera in an actual opera house in Vienna. I mean, sobrang panaginip yun para sa akin. Because, you know, Mozart, he composed a variety of compositions in Vienna. Concertos, the Requiem Mass, even his most famous operas were also composed there, like The Marriage of Figaro, yan, yung Magic Flute, which is what I watched in the opera house. The Magic Flute is a fantasy-themed opera, and the music is so sublime. I really enjoyed my night at the opera. Now let's talk about his composition style and what made him the very best. Of course, it was attributed to his incredible talent. Wala talagang kahit sino na katulad niya ngayon, maski dati at lalo na nung panahon na yun. So he was really the rare gem. There's one really interesting story about his greatness. Sa Vatican kasi, meron silang mass na tinago na bawal mo i-replicate. No one can make a copy of it. But Mozart, when he was 14 years old, he was there in the Vatican, and then he heard it once. He just heard it once. It played when they were there. And then, pag uwi niya, he already transcribed the whole thing, note per note, from his memory. That's just one of the very many stories. Also contributing to that, of course, is his discipline, devotion, and his passion for his craft na lumalabas talaga sa finished product niya, lahat ng compositions niya. The composers would actually say that there's nothing you could add or subtract to his music because it's already perfect as it is. His music kasi is light to listen to, but at the same time it's very deep and rich. And it just made you feel things. And somehow, when you listen to him, parang yung lahat ng heavy load mo na-unburden. His music is just divine and powerful like that. One example is his Concerto number 23, Circle 488, in A major. When I first heard it, somehow, I just knew that I wanted to keep on playing music and to become a musician. Kasi dati, gusto ko sana creative writing or filmmaking para ibang direction naman ako because I've been taking up music and musical theater since I was a kid. So I wanted to do a different thing for college. But when I first heard and played this Mozart concerto, somehow I just felt it in my heart that I wanted to become a musician. So yun, I played this piece as an audition piece for the conservatory, and then eventually I learned all 3 movements for one of my recitals. And now, just to give you an idea kung gaano siya kagaling, I'm gonna read some quotes from famous composers. So, si Tchaikovsky, isang Russian composer, sabi niya, Mozart is the highest, the culminating point that beauty has attained in the sphere of music. Imagine for someone to say that about you and your music. Si Wagner naman, a German composer, said, the most tremendous genius raised Mozart above all masters in all centuries and in all the arts. This one I really like. Si Bossoni, an Italian composer, said, together with the puzzle, Mozart gives you the solution. Then we looked for Mozart's lovely garden statue and took some photos. You can't separate Vienna from Mozart. Then I also got a glimpse of the lifestyle of royalty in Vienna, because before, royalty had a big part in uplifting the music scene and the musicians. Then when I travel, I like visiting nature and bodies of water, so I made it a point to walk by the Danube River, because that river is always depicted in art and in music. For example, Johann Strauss's Danube Waltz. Anyway, Wolfgang gained European fame, and him and his wife Constance lived an expensive life that would soon take its toll on them. Here in Vienna, he experienced the ups and downs of his career, most notably his financial struggle, his depression, the decline of his well-being, and until his very early death. Now I'd like to talk about a special part of my itinerary, which I always include when I travel. I like to visit graves of people who've inspired me or who've shaped me as a person, just as a way to thank them and the ultimate respect lang for everything that they've contributed to me. So a lot of composers were buried in Vienna. It was raining so hard nun, but I really wanted to push through. And I really wanted to go, especially because Beethoven's grave was there, and he's one of my most favorite composers as well. In fact, I will visit him in Germany after visiting Mozart here in Austria. When I got there and I saw their graves and I offered flowers, I couldn't explain how I was feeling. Kasi parang sobrang halo-halo lahat ng nararamdaman ko. Hindi ko siya ma-summarize. In fact, parang wala akong words to explain how that feels for me to stand somewhere and know that 6 feet underground, someone who had shaped the world in such a way that the world will never be the same again, and someone who had a really tremendous impact on me musically, and the fact that these people paved the way for us to enjoy music now. Wala akong words sa experience na yun. Iba yung energy na nadudulot ng ganong klaseng experience for me. So yun, I put flowers on their graves, and then I just talked to them as if narinig nila ako, just thanking them and just showing respect, really. So Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart lived a very short life. He died at 35 years old. Maraming speculations about his death. You know, the movie Amadeus even depicted that his rival, Antonio Salieri, poisoned him. So that was a rumor then, but actually wala naman talagang scientific basis on that. And some said he died really depressed because, of course, you know, just try to put your mind in the mind of a genius, and all those maybe external and internal pressures took a toll on him. And then some said that it was a bacterial infection and it gave him a fever na sobrang lala, and then he died from it. The sad thing about it is that he died very poor, and though he was the greatest composer to ever live, nung time na yun, they didn't see him for that when he was already down in the dumps dahil sa financial struggle niya. And then they just buried him in a mass grave. Grabe, no? I wish that there was a way for him to see right now that the universe is acknowledging him as the greatest composer who ever lived. I mean, if I only had a time machine and I could bring these artists back and make them see how very valuable and important their existence was for humanity today, Sana pwede mangyari yun. If anyone watched Doctor Who, the episode wherein he brought back Vincent van Gogh, sobrang ganda ng episode na yun. I wish that magagawa yun sometime in the future. No matter how short his life was, it wasn't wasted because he gifted us with 600 plus compositions of the best symphonies, the best operas, the best piano pieces, the best of music, really. There's another great composer and his good friend, si Haydn. He said that the future generations will never see a talent like that even in 100 years. Thank you so much, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. So that concludes my trip to Vienna, and I think my visit to those composers' graves was the perfect ending for that trip. Now, after Vienna, Salzburg. We took a train to Salzburg. That's the place where Mozart was born. So, di pa ako nakontento dun sa Vienna. I had to visit the place where he was born. And also, I chose this destination because it was also a way for me to go back to my roots naman in singing. Because this is where The Sound of Music was filmed, and that really had a lasting impact on me because a lot of my very first pieces to learn how to sing was through the songs from that movie, that musical. So Salzburg, we just explored a lot, and I went to Mozart's house. So I just enjoyed my time walking in his family home, just imagining, the life of this brilliant prodigy. Then I went to the oldest music bookstore, which dates back to 16th century, and I think Mozart's wife sold most of his portfolio here, so that was very exciting for me. I just marveled at all the pieces there and all the musical stuff that they were selling. Pero syempre, dahil wala naman ako masyadong funds, hanggang window shopping lang ako. But I did buy postcards and music notebooks and trinkets, souvenirs from that trip. Salzburg is so beautiful. I think isa yun sa pinakamagandang mga lugar na napuntahan ko. Ibang-iba siya sa Vienna. Yung scenery here is more on mountains and rivers. Actually, our apartment was right next to a stream, and it was so refreshing and it was so relaxing. Yung sights and sounds of nature, and it was full of hills. And speaking of hills, the hills are alive with the sound of music there in Salzburg, because just like I said, The Sound of Music was filmed here. So we joined the tour, and that was so fun. It was so full of songs and mga facts about the movie. And together with that tour was a trip to the salt mines. That experience was really unique for me. I enjoyed seeing the process for mining the salt and having a glimpse of the miners' lives. Then we even wore the miners' suit, and we really went inside the mountain. I really like mountains, rivers, things that possess some kind of ancient secret, parang things that have been there even before man. Parang ganun. I like those. I like stuff like that. I like those. And another thing that's really interesting about the tour is that going up the mountain and going down, you're gonna have a view of the Eagle's Nest, which is a hiding place for Hitler and some of his camp nung war. And that's also a topic of interest for me, that when I went to Germany, I really joined the tours and I really went to the museums so that I could, immerse myself more dun sa knowledge about that time. So in all my travels, I make sure I put a bit of everything there, yung mga things that really interest me and my imagination and inspires me in living my daily life. I always try to put a bit of everything, like history, science, math, art, of course, sports, and most especially music, syempre. I think of all the places I've been to, I left my heart in Vienna and Salzburg, because these destinations reminded me why I pursued music in the first place. You know, a lot of people will ask musicians or artists why they're embarking on that journey or why they're choosing that path, knowing that it's very uncertain and maraming trouble and consequences siya nakasama. They're gonna ask that especially if they can't see that, you know, it's going somewhere, lahat ng efforts mo sa craft mo. But I thought about it and naisip ko, kung mawalan ako ng sagot dun sa tanong na yun, it would mean that I have given up or that I had lost all reason to continue playing music. And I just couldn't allow for that to happen. So it was important for me to choose those destinations for travel as a way to remind myself and as a way to go back to my roots, as a way to retrace why I began playing music in the first place, to see and meet my musical heroes as a way to reignite the fire and to bring back the inspiration whenever it's gone. You know, walking in Vienna or Salzburg and seeing all these magnificent sights, hearing all these magnificent sounds, and just knowing that the best composers and the greatest of all musicians lived and once walked here, being in the presence of all of that kind of makes me feel really small for even thinking that I could make it big in my craft. But at the same time, it made me remember, it reminded me of why I even began my journey with music in the first place, with or without making it at all. You know, it's because I love music so much.